All right, we are on. Welcome to everyone that's on the presentation today. You've reached a good one. Today we're featuring eFolder, and we're talking about how they and their partners create solutions that become killer apps that help them compete in the marketplace. Today we've got 3 of their partners on board to share with you how they leverage file sync deployments to create a competitive advantage for themselves and their clients. I'm Terry Hedden. I'm the CEO of Marketopia. We specialize in providing leads to managed service providers. For those of you who don't know me, I used to be an MSP, growing one of the largest managed service providers in the country before selling it and doing things exactly like this. Before we get started, I want to do a little bit of administrivia here, talk about the widget bar. The widget bar is all of our attendees have the ability to control a media player, ask questions through the Q&A box, which we encourage you to do throughout the presentation. There's a Twitter post, a quick link, so you can tweet about this particular event. You can adjust your slide area, and there's a question for online help. And we do encourage you to tweet as much as you can. We love to see our attendees get social and share with your audience what you're learning at this event. For some of you, may benefit from a little larger slide. Within your actual display right now, you can actually resize the slides to make them easier to see. While it may not make sense now when things are large, as sometimes the text can get small, please don't hesitate to resize the slides so that it's comfortable for your viewing pleasure. All right, today's agenda, we've got a big one. Market trends on cloud file storage is how we're going to kick this off. We're going to talk about the role of the MSP and VAR in the cloud vendor selection and management. Talk about what a killer app is and how it helps our resellers create a competitive advantage for themselves in their marketplace and help their customers do something very innovative with file sharing. We're going to talk about 3 success stories from 3 eFolder partners where they've leveraged eFolder to meet unique business challenges. We're going to talk about how eFolder gives you competitive advantages and what their competitive advantages are in the market. And then we're going to go directly into why leading MSPs and VARs partner with eFolder, and we'll close with an open Q&A. I'm going to turn it over to Ted Wholeski. He is the Vice President of Marketing for eFolder and an all-around great guy. Ted?
All right, thanks a lot, Terry. So it's great to be here. We love doing these webinars with the MSP Mentor crew. Because it's a fabulous forum to let existing eFolder partners share their firsthand experiences on how they're deploying solutions, how they're serving their client needs, and how they're growing their businesses around eFolder solutions. Today we have a great panel discussion. We called it a cage match to create a little additional excitement because what's really interesting about Anchor is there's a lot of different use cases, and it's exciting to see so many of our MSP partners really exploit some of the unique advantages of the product in very unique ways for their clients. And so I'm pleased to introduce our panelists today. So first up is Jacob Kane from Proactive Technologies. Jacob, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, and then next up is Alan Jacob with Greyhound Technologies. Alan, are you there?
I am. Thanks, Ted.
Okay, welcome, guys. So, and just a small logistical challenge we had today. We're actually, Anthony D. Donato couldn't join us for today's session, so that's unfortunate. However, we've got a great panel in store. I do have a colleague who interviewed Tony about his experience with his particular application, so I'm going to invite my colleague Neeraj to chime in at the appropriate time. But Jacob and Alan, let's kind of keep going here. Welcome. So what I want to do first is just give a little bit of context on the file sync market. I mean, I think one of the massive trends we're all seeing there is that just like in many different categories of IT today, consumer behavior is driving a lot of what we need to do in the business class marketplace. And one of the big trends, of course, has been file sync. Probably Dropbox is the company that kind of exploited the opportunity in the consumer market the earliest. Dropbox is very widely adopted. You know, people have discovered the benefits of file sync probably first and foremost with sharing large photo files, high-resolution photos with family members. And that's really what has kind of driven this explosive growth of consumer-grade file sync, because it's the handiest way to trade large images and large files. The challenge, though, of course, is people using consumer-grade sync solutions in the workplace can be a really big risk. But we're also in a very different world today. It's a bring-your-own-device world. People are computing across mobile devices and tablets, multiple different, fat client computers, if you will. They may have a laptop, a Windows laptop, a Mac in their home office, and an iPhone on the road. It's very common today, and I think when you ask the average knowledge worker today, over half of them say, file sync is something I need to do my job. The challenge is for MSPs is that consumer-grade file sync solutions just don't make the grade. They are a massive security and data privacy risk for your clients. If you go and use something like your RMM tool, what you'll discover in many cases, even if you have a very good security posture already in place, is what you'll find is you have a ton of endpoints and users inside of companies that are using consumer-grade sync services. And the problem with that is that it really jeopardizes sensitive corporate data. Sensitive corporate data can end up being synced to unmanaged devices, can be synced to home office PCs. You don't know where that data's gone. You end up with data sprawl. You end up with data leakage risks. And if an employee either quits or is fired, you have a really huge risk in your clients that sensitive corporate data can be stolen, lost, or destroyed. And at the same time, there's really a lot of these consumer-grade services, though they're easy to use for the user, they lack all the features that a business needs. There's no ability to connect the file server to the system. There's not, rich security and control features and advanced features like backup. And really, you as the MSP, if your first job and mission in life is to protect the data and privacy and security of your clients, it's really challenging if you let consumer-grade sync solutions proliferate right under your nose in your clients. So, well-managed environments, shouldn't have consumer-grade file sync in place, but users need an alternative. And you, as the MSP, you understand that there are huge productivity benefits with being able to access corporate content from your mobile devices. You're in a terrific position to advise your clients on all the different alternatives that are available, how to properly secure your data, secure your privacy, and to empower productivity with the workforce. Now, in the file sync market, one of the inspirations for today's session was just to really think about a killer app. I'm going to explain in a little greater detail what eFolder's Anchor solution does, but I think when you think about a killer app, it's something that just drives deployment. It's like it does one thing well that just makes it a must-have for clients or users. In the case of the iPhone, it's probably the browser. In the case of early computing devices, it was the spreadsheet. And then of course the personal computer revolution and the web. I mean, it's really empowered forward by email. So that's what we mean by a killer app. And in our view, in the file sync market, there are some killer apps. There are some use cases in the business market that are just really compelling. And that's what we're going to focus today's conversation on, is what are some of those killer apps. But before I do that, before I introduce our partner guests to do that, let me just give a little bit of context on what we mean when we talk about a file sync, share, and collaboration solution. So eFolder's solution in this category is called Anchor. And what Anchor allows you to do is it allows your clients to sync sensitive corporate data between laptops, servers, mobile devices, and the web. It allows on-the-go professionals to access their content wherever they go, whether on their mobile devices or from the web or from multiple PCs. It allows them to collaborate with fellow employees when content's in team shares and do a lot of the same things you've traditionally done on a file server, but in a new mobile and cloud-friendly way. And it allows your clients to securely share content with third parties, right? In the business world today, sharing large files, sharing sensitive files is a day-to-day need of most busy professionals. So that's what Anchor does, but it does it in a unique way. It does it in a way that's designed for MSPs from the ground up because it's multi-tenant. The solution is built for MSPs to deploy a sync and share solution to 10 clients, 20 clients, 30 clients, and to have discrete security and control permissions from client to client, and to really deal with the complexities of a growing deployment in your client base. The biggest challenge in our view MSPs face today is labor. Every solution you deploy has to be highly automated, easy to manage, easy to scale, and not become a huge headache for your technicians or your users and clients. And Anchor answers that need with a multi-tenant sync and share solution that was built from the ground up for the IT channel. So that's what the solution does, but there's some really unique capabilities that we're going to zero in on today. Our judgment is that most of today's audience is probably very familiar with the base use case of a sync and share solution, and so we're really going to focus on the more advanced capabilities. And so what I'd like to do now is kind of turn the floor over to eFolder partner Jacob Kane from Proactive Technologies, who's going to share his experience with using file server enablement. Jacob, are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you very much. And thanks everyone for coming here today. So just a little bit of background. I'm president and co-founder of Proactive Technologies. We've been around since 2007. 32 employees. We're mostly located in New York with a couple of people in LA. But an important thing for our business is we're very heavily focused on the financial vertical, particularly with investment firms, so a lot of hedge funds, private equity, and alternative investment funds. So, very picky people who are very concerned about their privacy. And when we really started out looking at the file share market, originally it was just we saw people, again, they had their drop boxes, it was unauthorized, it was shadow, we couldn't monitor. We knew we needed to come up with some sanctioned way to give people what they needed to do to be on the road. And we went through a process. We probably brought in 8 or 9 different vendors, kicked the tires, and really for us, the killer app is the cloud enablement on the file server. One of the things we kept hearing again and again from a lot of the vendors in the space, is the sort of story, and Dropbox really had us of, we're here to revolutionize the way people are doing files. We see a world with no servers. And, for us, there's a lot where we kind of felt like we like our servers. There's a lot they do really well. There's no need to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but there are some areas where, where traditional file server does fall short. And the fact that Anchor gives us the flexibility to integrate those is huge. So, simplest use case on that is just classic VPN requirement, for people traveling. You support users. There are very, very few of them that ever say, I love my VPN. We've been able to do this where particularly for those types of non-technical senior execs who mostly just use their files and email anyway, this has really gotten them away from VPN. One of the other huge advantages, even when people look at VPN or looking at a terminal server solution, is the offline folder sync right on the desktop side. You can use it on a train or on a plane or in a hotel room in a foreign country or somewhere where your internet connection's not very good, or pretty choppy. And, just as a simple point, just getting away from managing all of those individual VPNs to a world where, people are able to do that through Anchor. It was a huge difference to us. The other thing that really works well with the cloud file sync enablement, where it's really helped us acquire clients, is we find that we can really go either way in terms of how we start and where we finish on our network. So our default, our standard preferred architecture is to have a traditional file server environment and then have Anchor for remote access for travel users, remote users. But there are certain times where we can walk into an established environment. They have a server infrastructure. They want to add on that remote piece. We can do that without upsetting what they already have. On the other hand, we run into sometimes startups where people come to us and say, we don't have an office yet. We're 4 people working out of our homes. We're planning on hiring 5 more people and opening an office soon, but we want to get going. What we do is we spin up a file server for them in our private cloud, enable it with Anchor. When they get their own office, just get them a local DC and file server and sync that down. And that level of flexibility has been huge for us. So on this, our key reasons for the file server enablement, it's the flexibility. It's the fact that if we have people who want map drives, who want a traditional server in the office, they can have that for those use cases. It also, we really love that it gives us a completely independent backup. One of the things when you go with the Dropbox is you are very dependent on Dropbox. They are doing, it's doing its versioning. That's the backup. And I know Anchor has that in as well, and it's great. It's never failed us so far, but one of my biggest nightmares is ever having to call someone up and say, we've lost your data forever and we can't get it back. And so one of the things that we can do is when we do the file server enablement, we sync those files to the server, take a backup of the server. We've got a completely independent backup system, and that's been huge for us. So, our client benefit, it's been great for people traveling, and it's really, again, really great for those startups. It's really common in our vertical, and here in New York where real estate is astoundingly expensive, where people will start up and there are a few people, again, working out of homes, or a friend is letting them use their conference room to get started, places where they can't have their network infrastructure. They can get started with Anchor, and when they do get their own infrastructure, it already integrates with it, so it's not a forklift upgrade. And, yeah, and again, that flexibility is where it becomes an integral part of the value proposition. There are a lot of times where being able to offer something to that startup that wants to get going, wants the flexibility, wants to travel, but knowing that there's a smooth upgrade path and that it's something that's got better security than a Dropbox, we've got a real solution for that, has been huge to client acquisition.
Okay, Jacob. Yeah, so that was great. So everybody who's online today, please think of questions that you'd like to ask Jacob about file server enablement and how he's deploying it. So just keep populating the Q&A log, and then we'll have dedicated time for question and answers coming up. So at this point, as I mentioned at the top, Tony could not join us from the Millennium Group, but my colleague Niraj interviewed Tony in advance of today's discussion, and we're just going to have Niraj pinch hit and talk a little bit about the Millennium Group and how they're using the private cloud deployment scenario with Anchor. Niraj, take it away.
Yeah, so thanks for that intro, Ted. So yeah, I'll be speaking on behalf of Tony and the Millennium Group. So just to give you a little bit of an idea about the Millennium Group, they were founded in '97 and they're veteran-owned, which kind of sets them apart from a lot of other MSPs. They have clients in 5 different states in and around Colorado, so kind of all over the U.S. And what's really cool about them is that they have clients in both the private and the public sector. So a lot of federal clients, government clients who are really, really concerned about the integrity and the security of their data. And so they use Anchor as a really great tool, especially through the private cloud deployment of Anchor, to make sure they know where their data is at all times and that it's, always protected and always there. So they have clients in a ton of different industries, some of them including manufacturing. They have clients involved in the Department of Defense and Department of Energy, oil and gas, they got a few kitchen clients and architecture firms. So, clients in a wide swath of different industries, and they all take advantage of the private cloud version of Anchor. So, when it comes to private cloud, the driving force behind providing a private cloud deployment for the Millennium Group was the fact that many of their clients simply weren't comfortable with their data being in some data center somewhere where they didn't know where it was, and they couldn't, call up whoever they wanted, and if there was an outage or any kind of data loss, they weren't in control of that. And what their clients wanted to do was to be able to call up Tony or one of his technicians and just know that their data was always in one repository where they knew, where one person or one team could control it and be held accountable for it. So what Tony has done, the Millennium Group has done, is deploy the private cloud version of Anchor, where all of the client's data is hosted on the data servers of the Millennium Group and isn't on, any other data server that they don't know or they don't control. And they've actually gained a number of advantages from this private cloud deployment that I'll go into. So, the main driving force behind the private cloud deployment was really that, the Millennium Group knows that the cloud is kind of this buzzword that's been around for a long time, and they knew they needed to offer their clients file sync, but the clients, especially those in the government sector, weren't really willing to put their data in, in Dropbox or in some other consumer-grade file sync service where they didn't control data. So, Tony did it so that they have their data stored in the Millennium Group's cloud, in their data center, and that they also have it mirrored locally using file server enablement on the client's own file servers. And the benefit of this is kind of a hybrid approach where they have the data on site in their own file server, so they know it's there, but then they also have it in Tony's data center, and they can gain access to that at any time or call up Tony whenever necessary. So clients have benefited from Tony's private cloud deployment in a number of different ways. First off, Tony is able to offer the private cloud version of Anchor at a discount. The way that eFolder prices it is even more competitive with the private cloud version than with the SaaS version. And so Tony is able to sell Anchor to his clients at about $10 per seat, which, when you consider a lot of other competition in the file sync space, is a really deep discount. And he's still able to meet all of their needs and all of their expectations. So let me walk you through a few different clients that Tony mentioned to me that are taking advantage of the private cloud deployment of Anchor. So one is a kitchen designer. They're located around the U.S., and they do kind of designing and manufacturing for kitchens. And they take advantage of a lot of the features of Anchor. They create gas folders. So, for example, if one of their kitchen designers wants to share some designs or an invoice or anything with customers, they're able to create a secure portal and have that data shared with the client or with the customer and between the client and vice versa very easily. And this kitchen designer that Tony mentioned has about 25 end users. And again, all of their data is in two places. One, on site in their headquarters through file server enablement. The second is all their data is mirrored in Tony's data center, where they could call up Tony anytime and kind of know the data whenever they want. Another company that uses Anchor is a green tech company. They're a water filtration firm, and they operate around the world, actually. They're in Mexico, India, U.S., Canada, and more countries. And they've really adopted Anchor as their complete file system. Their file structure is entirely hosted within the private cloud version of Anchor. So they do have a file server on site in their headquarters, and the benefit of that, as Jacob alluded to before, is all the benefits of having the data on site locally, fast data access for anyone in the office, but then eliminate VPN and FTP for remote users trying to gain access to that data from outside the office. And again, because all of the data is mirrored to Tony's data center, it's really advantageous for that client, knowing that it's not in some public cloud that they may not be comfortable with or may be aware of. A third client that Tony spoke to me about was a government client who, they're about 275 users, so they're really large. And they really wanted that private cloud version of Anchor simply for their comfort, knowing that the Millennium Group had their data and that it wasn't, subject to any kind of restrictions due to being in the public cloud. And, especially for these government clients, what's really great for their data protection is that when they send out important data to, let's say, customers, they don't send the actual data. They simply send links to that data through the Anchor solution. So, you don't run into a lot of compliance issues that they're really sensitive to, which they really benefit from. So those are kind of the three clients that Tony highlighted. And again, from the Millennium Group standpoint, offering Anchor as a private cloud version is kind of a win-win. And it's all about offering it at a really great price for their client. And it's really gotten them ahead of the competition and gotten them some pretty great margins. So yeah.
Okay, well, great. Great. Thanks, Neeraj. So I guess I just would like to, kind of interject, just make sure everybody's following. I mean, one of the nice things about eFolder's approach with Anchor is we allow partners to either leverage the Anchor solution running the eFolder cloud, where we bundle the storage with the software, and we include 100 gigabytes per user per month per licensed user, pooled at the partner level, so that the partner really controls the storage allocation at the client and the user level. So that's what we would call the public cloud version of Anchor. The vast majority of eFolder's partners go with that approach today. I mean, eFolder, we operate a petabyte scale storage cloud with 4 data center locations throughout the world. So we run these sorts of solutions at really high scale and really high quality and reliability. However, as Neeraj explained in the case of the Millennium Group, there are MSPs who either want to run the software stack on their own infrastructure, or they've got clients who want to do a private installation behind their own firewall for privacy reasons. And the beauty of Anchor is that we can accommodate either of those scenarios. So whether it's public cloud or private cloud, or MSP who want to build out a solution on their own just by licensing the software tool, we give those choices to the MSP. And again, that's something that's really unique about the eFolder business model. So we've covered file server enablement, we've covered private cloud. Now let's change gears to Alan Jacob from Greyhound Technologies. Alan, take it away.
All right, thank you. And once again, thanks for having me here today. A little bit of information about myself and the company. I'm with Greyhound Technologies, and we're based out of Detroit, Michigan. Been in business since 1996. We're a woman and minority-owned company, and we have customers primarily in the state of Michigan, but because of some of the areas and the verticals that we work in, we have customers throughout the United States and in some cases throughout the world. Where customers are, our market is education, finance, medical, insurance, real estate, mortgage, and title, to name a few. And from our aspect, we originally got engaged with Anchor at IT Nation many years ago, and what we were originally looking for was a file sync and collaboration solution for several of our customers. Other products that were out there in the market just weren't bringing the type of tools and tool sets that we were looking for. And while we were looking for this solution, we came across a product that provided a very beneficial solution for us, which was backup. And we have a backup solution in place that scales real well for customers that are 500 gigs and larger. Terabytes were fine. But we didn't have a great solution for customers that are a small office, satellite office, road warriors that may have 10 gigs, 20 gigs, 50, 100 gigs of data that they need to have backed up and synced all the time. So when we encountered the Anchor solution, we were very pleased with what we had found. From our side, we found this to be a really useful product for customers that are in small environments. And I'll give some examples. Insurance offices, they may be part of a large insurance company, but their local office is made up of 2 to 15 people. They have some people out on the road. They have information in the office. They have no real way of backing that information up or a solution that is cost efficient for the amount of data that they have. We also found the same thing very relevant in medical offices, real estate and real estate agents, teachers, huge for teachers. Too many times we've seen teachers transporting information back and forth to their classroom on flash drives. They drop a flash drive in the water and all their data is gone. And our road warriors that are out there, out in the road, salespeople, people that are on the road all the time, don't have a way of backing up their laptop or their mobile device so that they're safe. And we've actually encountered a customer that was using the Anchor product and actually dropped his laptop in a puddle getting out of a vehicle. It slipped off his lap into a puddle, and all of his data that was important to him was all backed up. So recovery was rather easy. We've also give a couple other examples here of a home builder, an industrial paint company. The same thing. We're using file server enablement for many of the folks, and but we also have the ability to back up them users' mobile devices out there on the road in this type of case. So it's been a great solution for many types of customers that we service and support. Looking at the slides themselves, our real pain points before we found the Anchor solution was Crayon really didn't have a solution that was a good suit or a good fit for our smaller customers or folks with a smaller number of users or a small amount of data. And now we can come in and deliver a solution that can start off as low as 10 gig, 20 gigs for them, a very low monthly price, and they can quickly expand to dozens of users or hundreds of users if they need it. It's really, the product has been most useful for us with regards to our small to medium businesses. We do have Anchor deployed across much larger businesses, but we've been very, very happy with deploying the product across our small and medium business customers. We actually position Anchor as a file sync solution product for our customers with that backup advantage. We really have used Anchor in a number of different ways for our customers depending on their needs and their requirements. As we all know, every customer's needs are different. They may be in the same industry or the same business type, but their needs are different. So we really take an approach of taking a look at what the customer's needs are and then tailoring a solution that best fits their needs. And what we have found is Anchor has allowed us to leverage their product in many different ways for a vast number of customers. And that's all I have, Ted.
All right, well, great, Alan. Excellent. Thank you for sharing that. How you're adapting Anchor to the various use cases in your client base. I just want to comment. I didn't really, when I gave the kind of the solution diagram overview at the top here, I didn't really even mention the backup functionality. And I think what's important for the audience to understand is the additional backup functionality in Anchor is included at no extra charge. So that capability is something that you as the MSP can decide whether you want to deploy and allow it, whether you want to use it as the core functionality. There's also a lot of flexibility in letting the user decide, which directories they want to back up. In addition, so I mean, just so it's clear, sync is not backup, right? We all know that, but I mean, it's sometimes a concept you have to kind of really educate users on and clients. Syncing, you're moving data to multiple different devices and making it accessible and usable in a production way in different environments. Backup is taking files and folders and moving them at either a schedule or in real time to another point to restore them if you have a data loss event on the principal area where the data resided. So Anchor does both, and it's very robust in both ways. And just so it's clear, eFolder as a company, we also have eFolder Backup for Files, which is a completely different product, which is more of a scheduled backup solution designed mostly for deployment on servers. So the beauty here is everything from sync to file level backup on loosely managed workstations or in small SMB environments to robust file level backup on servers and BDR. eFolder covers that whole waterfront for MSP partners. But just to wrap up with a couple additional details before we go into formal Q&A here. Just to review, Anchor is a product. It provides business-grade file sync, which has security and control features for administrators and the MSP market. It's very easy for the user to use. It works across all of the main mobile platforms. Users are able to, access their content on the go from virtually any kind of device they need to compute from. They're able to share content with colleagues or clients in various different ways, either using public shares or secure shares. And then all of the data is encrypted and secure when it's in either a public cloud or a private cloud environment. And the fundamental management model is multi-tenant, which is designed for deployment by service providers who have different clients, different users with different security and control needs. Just a couple points about pricing. Anchor starts at wholesale at $10 per user per month for MSPs, but it goes down from there, and it really depends on how large of a license commitment you make to eFolder. What we advocate is that MSPs charge between $15 and $25 a month per user per month, because we expect MSPs to deploy this as a business-grade managed service offering. Now, what you will find is that what a lot of very successful eFolder partners have done is they will make Anchor a standard component of their overall managed services stack, and so there isn't necessarily a discrete line item price per user per month in many cases. And so the beauty here is that the product allows you to put your own brand name on it, completely hide eFolder and Anchor in the background, brand it as your own service, price and package it how you want, and so partners really have the ultimate flexibility in terms of how this gets deployed. But in our view, this should be one of the most profitable service offerings you deliver because it solves a host of different really pressing business challenges for your client today. It has robust security and control features, so it can be priced at a premium and positioned as a premium right way to do file sync and collaboration in today's market. And then we really stand behind the product to help our partners become successful. We have an excellent onboarding process for all our new partners. We have a named account manager. We have excellent post-sales support, and we have a host of different marketing and selling tools that allow you to go out there and effectively promote and educate your clients on the need for a business-grade file sync solution. If you haven't yet given the product a try, you can do a 21-day free trial of either the private cloud or the public cloud versions of the product by going to anchorworks.com/download. And at this point, what I'd like to do is we have just under 20 minutes left, and so what I'd like to do now is turn it over for Q&A. And Terry, why don't you just start peppering us with some questions?
Okay, we'll do it. Jacob, I want to start with you. We've got one question from Raymond asking about the best pricing strategy, whether it's agent or user base, or do you do it by storage? And I want to piggyback on that and understand a little bit more about what you've seen in terms of service issue reduction when you eliminate that VPN, because that's a common pain point, and frankly, pain with respect to customers obviously translates to cost for the MSP. So reduction of issues makes the customer happier and the MSP more money. So do you want to talk about a little bit about how you've seen the pricing strategy work in the market, and also if you've seen a reduction in service issues after eliminating the VPN in your example?
Sure. So regarding pricing strategy, we typically price at $15 a user a month, and we have several hundred users on Anchor, and I don't think we've gotten any pushback whatsoever on that, ever. I think that if we were more aggressive about it, there would be plenty of opportunity to get $20, $25, $30 a user a month. We really picked that because it makes it the same price basically as Box.com, and at that price, we just never have to have an argument or discussion about it, and it tends to be something we're wrapping it up with pretty high per user, revenues overall. So, I will sort of basically say $15 is a snap as the floor. There's definitely room to go up. Regarding user or storage, our clients tend to have very small amounts of data. Just the nature of kind of trading operations, they move around a lot of data, but they store very little. So in our case, it's really easy. We have some caps sometimes on data that are very high that we really use just to make sure you don't have someone who's storing their entire movie collection on there. But we also do exclude multimedia files by default. But generally speaking, for our environments, it's pretty common for us to have a 10-user environment that's got 25 gigs of data total. So we don't worry about it much. But again, I think that if you wanted to tack on some storage charges on top of that, particularly if it's something relatively low, I don't foresee a problem with most customers. I think it's an easy way to go. Regarding the VPN, gosh, I wish I had better stats on it. I mean, it's definitely reduced our load, but what it's really done is just make our clients way happier. Because what we found is there's a handful of places where people have stopped using VPN, and they were before, no doubt. But we're pretty VPN averse. So in a lot of ways, it's more just we have use cases that we wouldn't have let people do, or that we would have just known they'd be unhappy. A great use case for us is actually pretty common, as we'll run into a situation where might be a small company, there are 5 people in New York, and there's one hire or one of the senior people wants to spend half the year in California. Trying to do that with someone working day in and day out with a VPN over map drives, it was horrible. And it's not just that they'd call us a lot, it's that they'd have that experience, it wouldn't be very good, so they'd wind up copying down the files that they use most often to their local PC, working on that every day, not syncing it back to the network until they call us one day when their hard drive on their PC fails. Or the owner of the firm calls us and lets us know that employee's left and they don't have all their data. It's definitely cut down on the labor, but it's just so much vastly in terms of the happiness and satisfaction.
Love that. Happy customer is a loyal customer, and a loyal customer is a profitable customer. So love that story. Ted, this question's for you. There seems to be, a general consensus around security, specifically with the violent virus called CryptoLocker that is captivating the media headlines right now. How does eFolder protect the end user from the CryptoLocker virus? And then, broader than that, tell me about eFolder security and what it does to ensure that the customer's information remains secure.
So there's kind of two ways to look at that. I mean, I think at the first level, you've got to understand that we don't necessarily provide security defense against CryptoLocker. I mean, your main way you're going to stop CryptoLocker in its tracks is to use a network-based security solution like an OpenDNS as an example. to prevent machines from phoning home to the the command and control motherships that are encrypting these machines, and using all the other defenses that are at our disposal, like next generation firewalls and UDMs and host-based protection. The reality is, and we do a lot of co-marketing with our friends over at OpenDNS, because it really, business-grade file sync and security is a 1-2 punch conversation. These things go hand in hand. MSPs that are advanced in security are also very concerned about data privacy and are very adept at deploying robust solutions for how you control and manipulate and move around data. Now, if there is a CryptoLocker infection on a synced machine, there is a built-in feature in Anchor which allows you to do a complete system rollback of all the files to a previously known good state. So, the crazy part about CryptoLocker is it's really, really hard to defend. Some of our most advanced MSPs from a security perspective use every tool under the sun, but still occasionally suffer an attack on a host or a server. And the good news is that with Anchor, there's a built-in feature that's designed for exactly those situations, which allows you to roll back all the files with just a few clicks of the button to the known good state before the encryption attack occurred. Now, in terms of security and control, I think it bears noting that a business-grade file sync solution is not a data leak prevention solution. So, we can't prevent every potential situation where an employee or a ne'er-do-well might want to try to thieve data or steal data from their employer. It's really about, in our view, the beauty of a business-grade file sync solution is to swing the pendulum back from this kind of Wild West, totally uncontrolled situation, which really reared its ugly head 4 or 5 years ago with consumer-grade file sync, where you're shifting the pendulum back, and the way we implement security and control is you can do things like you can prohibit, for instance, a user from syncing to a home office PC or a Mac. You can say, as an example, in a particular client or a particular user, they're only allowed to sync with their iPhone. You're able to, as somebody mentioned, you're able to control which files can or cannot be synced. And there's reasons to do that for various reasons. Protecting intellectual property, as an example, or preventing storage consumption. You're able to specify which operating systems can be synced. We have certain partners that will deploy only sync the file server to the cloud and force users and actually not allow files to be synced down even to like a corporate issued laptop, because they may or may not be implementing full disk encryption on that laptop, and you may not want a large data store residing on the laptop. So you may want, for security reasons, to force the user to go to a web-based experience to get access to files, as an example. We can also implement two-factor authentication. So there's all these different scenarios of where you're able to really tailor the security and privacy controls to the client or user need. So hopefully that answers some of the questions on some of the security options that are available with Anchor.
Oh, wow. So it's a great solution. So in addition to, obviously, enterprise-class security within your data center and resident within your product, you're offering things like two-factor authentication that really is the ultimate in terms of protecting end-user data from maybe being hacked or something like that. That two-factor authentication is huge in my experience. Ted, can you go into a little bit more about what exactly the capabilities are with respect to eFolder doing the entire operating system and the DLL files and that type of thing? Is it capable of doing more of a bare metal type backup, or is it designed more for file and folders?
Yeah, if we're talking about backup functionality, Anchor has file and folder backup functionality that doesn't support open file backup or scheduling. If you wanted scheduling and open file backup, you would go to eFolder Backup for Files, which is eFolder's oldest product line that's been around the longest. And then if you wanted full image-based backup, you would go with eFolder BDR. So eFolder BDR is used by eFolder partners to protect critical workstations and servers and to do full image level backup of those systems. And what makes eFolder's approach in that market unique is we allow partners to use one of 5 different really popular image-based backup software tools and marry those up to the eFolder cloud. So we support StoragecRaft, Shadow Protect, Acronis, Aperture, Veeam, and Replibit. So 5 different flavors of software, and all of those can be backed up or replicated to the eFolder cloud and then give the partner the ability to also do a cloud-based recovery when like a worst-case scenario happens and there's actually like a complete site-wide outage or fire or natural disaster that occurs. So that's how we handle image-level or system-level backup.
Okay, so you basically work with some of the leading offsite backup or image-level backup solution providers out there and just sort of allow their solution to complement yours and vice versa so that you achieve everything you need to achieve and you're still using best-of-breed technologies. I love that. I love that. Trey has asked about Active Directory. Do you integrate with Active Directory or do you have your own independent security?
Yes, we support Active Directory and LDAP authentication schemes, and that's really critical for just having like a seamless single sign-on type user experience for the users and to ease, of course, the deployment burden so you don't need to burden clients or their users with an additional username and password. Okay, that's great. Can't ask for much more than that. Talk about what happens when you delete, you deactivate a user from the system. And how does that work? Does it delete the agent? And if so, when you delete the agent, does it automatically delete all the files on that local system, or is that something that requires a second step? Yeah, I mean, I think an important distinction to make, first of all, is when you're kind of the difference between kind of a mobile device and a fat client or a full-blown workstation. The content on a mobile device, say an iPhone or an Android device or a tablet, the data doesn't, in most cases, the data is not cached locally and synced locally, but all of the files are accessible from those devices. And then in the case of a workstation or a Mac, the user can select certain team shares to sync locally or their own personal sync folder to sync all content locally. One of the security and control capabilities is what we call remote wipe. So when a user is decommissioned from the system or deauthorized, all of the devices that were in their sync realm, if you will, the data gets remotely wiped from the machine. And so, I mean, that is a very common scenario in cases where an employee is either leaving the company or due to be terminated. You do need to. This is where MSPs can add a ton of value, and this is why we suggest, charging a premium and selling this as a managed service, because adds, moves, and changes need to be done in an expert and timely fashion. And you, as the MSP, are usually in the driver's seat on these sorts of activities on behalf of the client. So, yeah, I mean, remote wipe is one of the things you would want to do if you had a scenario where an employee was going to be terminated, or laid off. You'd want to be, Johnny on the spot, if you will, with invoking that remote wipe in advance of the person knowing about the scenario. Great. And it sounds to me like you've kind of built in some capabilities that allow the MSP to really convey a lot of value around the solution. So it's not just a product or a service that you're representing in the market, but it's sort of like a new technology that the MSP can then layer on services and surround that technology with services like that remote wipe capability. And those services are obviously managed services that recur and provide recurring revenue, recurring margin, and a way to differentiate and add value to the equation. So I love how you have that sort of baked into the system. Talk to me about. Yeah. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah, I mean, I think one other thing to just comment on it, and I think Jacob touched on this a little bit, is just it's a hybrid world, right? And I think there's a lot that we have. There's competitors of ours who go out and say, well, you got to go out there and rip out the file server and forklift that out and change the way people work. And the reality is that we over here in the SMB market deal in the real world, if you will, where there's a lot of legacy technology. There's a lot of things that are working just fine. And I think that one of the beauties of Anchor is that we provide MSPs a lot of agility in dealing with those realities. So if you've got clients that have legacy file servers in place, we provide you a solution to give them an on-ramp to the cloud, if you will. On the other hand, I think as we talked about a little bit as well, you oftentimes will have greenfield, brand new clients, and it does beg the question, does this client even need a file server on premises? And if they don't, you can use Anchor as the file server. But you have the choice. And we don't really force partners to down one path or the other. And so we really view Anchor more as a platform rather than as just a product.
Love that. I know a lot of MSPs are sort of struggling with how to enter into the cloud space, and I think eFolder is kind of like Office 365 in the sense that it's sort of a no-brainer. It's an easy on-ramp into providing cloud services, low risk. You get a lot of support with it, and it's not something that's so unbelievably difficult to comprehend for the customer. Because of what Dropbox and Box did for the consumer market, eFolder seems like something that would be very well received in the market. It sounds, by listening to what Alan, Anthony, or I guess Alan and Jacob both mentioned, the market is very receptive to eFolder, so that's great to hear. A couple of more tactical questions, one from Perry. He asked if he can make folders read-only when you deploy it to a customer to keep them from changing files.
Yes, you can. Yeah, you can have team shares. You can have either a secure share, which is kind of a one-on-one secure sharing experience where you can make it read-only or download-only and no write capability, or you can have team shares that are read-only.
Okay. Along those same lines, Roy has asked if you can make any folder the sync folder, or is it something like Dropbox where you're restricted to how it's installed in that particular folder on the desktop? The standard install is you end up with, yes, you have a sync folder, the common scenario, the common deployment is you end up with a sync folder that appears in the favorites, which is the place where the personal sync realm is for the user, and then living right alongside that is all of the team shares, which are the folders where either departmentally or based on a special project, you've set up a internal intra-company sets of folders where content can be shared, and that's exactly how file server enablement works. Is you map folders on the file server to team shares, and that basically cloud enables the file server, and then of course allows people on their mobile devices or who are remote all the time to collaborate, check in, and make sure their content is synced back to the cloud and the server, so you don't have one of these scenarios, I think, that like was described earlier, where you have like these data silos and data sprawl, which can lead to data loss of critical content. Wonderful, wonderful. It's interesting. The more you hear everything that Jacob said and Alan has said, it's pretty clear that eFolder is a logical addition to any MSP's portfolio. I think Box and Dropbox sort of created the market for this, but eFolder has really, and they popularized it on the consumer level, but eFolder has created a solution that's much more business-centric, one that has the channel capabilities and partner enabling type training that it takes to be successful. And I happen to know a lot about some of the competitors out there, and it seems like eFolder is just a more evolved offering, something that's more business class in nature. So it's one of those things that seems like it's kind of a no-brainer. Again, I mentioned like Office 365. I'd probably put eFolder in that category, something that's easy to implement, easy to get into, customers like it, and it's an easy way for an MSP to broaden their cloud offering without really changing the way they do business. So Ted, Jacob, Alan, thank you so much for your time today. It was great to hear what eFolder did for your clients and what it's done for your business as MSP. And Ted, as always, a great job, and we certainly appreciate all you're doing to help all the MSPs and VARs in our community be successful, make more money, have happier clients, and more successful managed services practices.
Thanks for having us today. It was great.
Thank you.
Jacob and Alan, thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Thank you.